Are we building businesses that run without us? Numerous small businesses are operating with independent systems. Therefore, they are dependent on the owner's daily directions with most tasks, and questions from their team get funneled back to them. They are the bottleneck, the approval stamp, and the only person who actually knows how anything gets done. The cost of running things this way is long, but a few consequences really stand out. First, your entire business only exists inside your own brain, which is genuinely one of the worst places to store it. Brains are great at coming up with ideas, but they're a terrible long-term filing system. Second, every task takes more mental energy than it should, because instead of following a process you've already worked out, you're reinventing the steps from scratch every single time, which is exhausting and slow. Third, without documented processes, you can't actually delegate anything properly, which means you can't hire well, you can't outsource, and you end up stuck doing everything yourself indefinitely. A lot of owners try to solve this by just hiring more people, but if all of your knowledge still lives only in your head, the people you hire have nothing solid to learn from, so they can't do the job the way you actually want it done. And fourth, without consistent processes, quality becomes a coin flip. Think about any local coffee shop that doesn't really have its act together. Order the same drink twice, and you might get two completely different results because there's no standard anyone's actually following. Compare that to a shop where every barista weighs out the same amount of every ingredient every single time. That consistency is exactly why you keep going back. Customers want to know what they're getting before they get it, and systems are what make that possible. So let's actually define what a system is, because people throw the word around constantly without really pinning down what they mean. The way I think about it, a system is a collection of repeatable processes designed to produce consistent results, without starting from scratch every time, in service of one specific goal. Take something as simple as brushing your teeth. The repeatable processes are things like how you brush, how often, whether you floss, and whether you book your dentist checkups on schedule. The consistent result is clean teeth, and the specific goal underneath all of it is avoiding cavities. Or think about a weekly content system for a YouTube channel or newsletter. The processes are how you track ideas, how you hand files to an editor, and how you upload and publish. The consistent result is a steady stream of polished content, and the underlying goal is to grow an audience. Here's the thing, once you start seeing the world this way, everything is a system. A massive touring concert production that runs nearly identically across 50 different cities isn't magic. It's an enormous, carefully documented logistical system behind the scenes. A national restaurant chain handing you a nearly identical order no matter which location you walk into isn't luck. It's a system. Once you start looking for them, you'll see systems absolutely everywhere, and that's exactly the mindset you want walking into your own business. In a business specifically, I think about systems in 3 layers. At the top, you have your big systems, marketing, team, and product or service delivery, broadly speaking. Underneath each of those, you have subsystems. Inside marketing, that might be social media, paid advertising, or referrals. Inside team, that might be hiring, payroll, or how you manage software access. Inside product, that might be onboarding, fulfillment, or support. And underneath the subsystems, you have your actual processes, the specific step-by-step routines. Inside marketing, that's things like how you film and edit a reel, or how you write a newsletter. Inside team, that's how you grant file access, how you run a weekly meeting, how you send a contract. There can be a genuinely huge number of these once you start listing them out, and right now, almost all of them are probably living in exactly one place, your own memory. So let's get all of that out of your head and onto paper, step by step. Step 1 is the brain dump. Open up a spreadsheet, a table, or whatever project tracking tool you prefer, and just list out everything you do recurrently in the business, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever the rhythm is. Don't worry about organizing it neatly yet. Just get it all out of your head. For each item, jot down roughly which system or subsystem it belongs to, and how often you do it. You will absolutely think of more items later that you forgot the first time through, and that's completely normal. Just add them to the list whenever they come to mind. The goal here isn't a perfect list on the first attempt. It's getting the contents of your brain into a place where you can actually look at them. Step 2 is scoring. You've got a long list now, probably a genuinely overwhelming one, and you obviously can't build a polished process for every single item all at once. So we're going to score each task on 4 things to figure out what to tackle first. Frequency. How often you do this task. The more often something happens, the more valuable it is to nail down a repeatable process for it. Annoyance. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you dread doing this particular task? A 1 means you genuinely don't mind it at all. A 5 means you'd rather do almost anything else. Impact. How much does this task actually move your business toward its goals? If something scores very low on impact, that's worth questioning. Why are you even doing it? And finally, simplicity. How easy would this be to hand off to someone else? Sending an invoice is simple, just a few clear steps every time. Brainstorming your next big content idea is not simple. It involves judgment and creativity that's much harder to document and transfer. Average those 4 numbers together for each task, and you get what I'll call a handoff priority score. Sort your list by that score, highest to lowest, and you've instantly got a prioritized roadmap. The tasks at the top are exactly where you should focus your systemizing energy first. Before moving on, take a quick pass through the list and ask a few questions. Anything that's low impact and just busy work? Consider cutting it entirely. Anything repetitive that a workflow automation tool could just handle for you, like pulling payment information straight into a customer database? Go find that tool. It's probably out there already. And anything that's high impact but genuinely miserable to do, where someone else could realistically do it nearly as well as you. That's your top candidate for documenting and delegating. Step 3 is the owners. For every task on your list, write down who currently owns it, which, if you're working solo right now, is simply you. Then write down who the ideal owner would be. This is where I want you to actually dream a little. The ideal owner doesn't have to be you, and it doesn't have to be someone you've already hired. If you could wave a magic wand and hand this task to the perfect person for it, who would that be? A virtual assistant? A specialist contractor? A future operations hire you haven't brought on yet? Writing down someone other than yourself doesn't obligate you to hand the task over today. It just gives you total clarity on what you're actually working toward. Most business owners never get asked this question directly. If you didn't have to do everything yourself, what would you actually choose to keep doing? This step is your chance to answer it honestly. Step 4, and arguably the most important one, is documentation. Before you hand anything off to anyone, you need it written down or recorded somewhere. You're just setting a new hire up to ask you, how do I actually do this? Over and over, which puts you right back where you started. Before documenting, run a quick audit. Do you already have an informal checklist for this task anywhere? Great. Build from that instead of starting over. Is this something repeatable enough to turn into a template, like a customer email response or a recurring social post? Make the template now. Are you using too many disconnected tools to do one job? Worth simplifying before you document the mess as is. And for every step you're about to write down, ask yourself honestly, do I actually need this step, or am I just doing it because that's how I've always done it? Once you've done that audit, pick your documentation method. My personal favorite is a screen invoice video walkthrough. using whatever recording tool you already have, because it lets the person you hand it to rewatch it as many times as they need, at whatever speed works for them. A written, numbered checklist works well for simpler tasks. And for anything more complex involving real judgment calls, like deciding which content idea to greenlight, consider building a quick decision tree. Has this been validated before? Is it similar to something that's worked recently? Is it on topic? Walking through a few branching questions like that. A few quick tips before you hit record. Jot down a short outline of what you want to cover so you don't forget anything mid-recording. Actually show a real example as you go, rather than just describing it in the abstract. And keep it tight. Skip the tangents that aren't necessary, since whoever's learning from this will appreciate getting to the point. One more thing worth building into your system. Add a last updated field to every process you document, and revisit it on some regular cadence. Quarterly works well for a lot of people. If a process hasn't been touched in 2 years, it's probably stale. So have whoever's actually doing that task now refilm or rewrite it. And that's an important detail. Once someone else owns a task, they should be the one keeping its documentation current, not you, since you're no longer the one doing it day to day. Once you've got tasks scored, owners assigned, and your top priority processes documented, you'll naturally start handing things off and hiring as needed. But at some point, you might realize you don't actually want to be the person who keeps everything running. You don't want to be the one tracking whether documentation is current, whether people are following the process, or whether anything's slipping through the cracks. If that's you, there's a real solution. Bring in a dedicated business operations manager whose entire job is owning the systems and the team, so all of that responsibility doesn't sit on you anymore. It's a role a lot of business owners don't realize exists, and for the right business at the right stage, it can be one of the best hires you ever make. You don't have to do this. Plenty of owners genuinely enjoy staying hands-on with their own systems, and that's a completely valid choice too. But if the idea of being the one who's always on call is exhausting just to think about, this is your way out of that. And then, finally, step 5. Actually go on the vacation. Once your systems are built and documented and owned by people other than just you, you genuinely can disappear for a week without everything catching fire. If there's a little voice in your head right now insisting that if you're not personally doing tasks, you must be lazy or unproductive, I want you to let that thought go. Working fewer hours in your business isn't a moral failing. It's the entire point of building it this way in the first place. So to recap the whole process, brain dump everything you do recurrently, score it on frequency, annoyance, impact, and simplicity, assign a current and an ideal owner to each task, document your highest priority items properly, and then either manage that system yourself or bring in someone whose job it is to manage it for you. None of this happens overnight, and you don't need to tackle your entire list this week. Just start with whatever's sitting at the top of your priority list and build from there. Creating systems are even easier with AI assistants and agents that helps to establish more visible workflows, variance analysis, KPIs, and other mechanisms that enable us to focus on critical operating principles as we lead the company and enable it to work as an entity on our behalf. Buying back our time so we may have a life that is more meaningful, and our team can also feel satisfied being part of a stable system. I enjoyed your company on this journey and encourage you, small business owners and local service providers, to review your operations.